Today, I want to deal with the subject of futurism. And so, what we're dealing with is the fact that civilization is being transformed. We're not just talking about innovation, like we went from landlines to smartphones, or we went from uh, typewriters to computers. That changed a lot, but that's an advance in technology, that's innovation. What we are seeing in the next 5 years, and especially in 10 years, because it'll spread to all developing countries eventually, is a new civilization, a total transformation. And my job as a so-called thought leader and futurist is also to prepare the church for what's ahead. And uh, you may not have as much time to or a desire to read broadly, but there's a way to keep on top of what's coming, especially when it comes to megatrends. Megatrends are permanent changes. They're not fads. It's not like a business that opens up today and 3 years later it's gone. A megatrend has implications and imprints that last for, it just makes permanent changes, put it that way, until another megatrend supplants it with another innovation. So we're talking about mega trends that are not only recalibrating, but rebooting and restarting civilization as we know it in the way we live, our methodologies, employment, the way we think, the way we utilize labor, military. Uh, Microsoft just came out with a quantum chip for computer that's revolutionizing everything, and that'll be connected to some kind of AI chat GPT or Gronk 3 or something and make it even more, uh, speed up even more. And so,
Morning.
and make sure your phone is on mute if you're not speaking. Okay, let's mute our brother over here. And Uh, just a few thoughts that I have, and then I'm going to turn it over to Elijah Lowe. We work together training the body of Christ in futurism and in AI. Elijah is a global economist, a technology genius, and understands AI better than anybody I know. So before he shares, uh, I just want to give some tips how to broaden your horizons and stay on the leading edge. These are not profound tips. These are just regular habit patterns that I would encourage you all to walk in. Uh, you have to learn how to read broadly. Read broadly. Do not just read uh, the political uh, media or watch media that always agrees with you. So you want to read broadly. Number two, and you're doing this today, those of you part of our apostolic family, you're already practicing this. Become part of a collective of peers that challenges each other with diverse opinions, cutting edge discussions related to your vocation. I surround myself with both ecclesial and workplace leaders who regularly dialogue and exchange ideas, articles, books, and opinions regarding global economics, politics, futurism, and church. I don't have enough time in a day to be an expert in everything. So I've created several group texts, and we sort of like a think tank based on, one group is based more on geopolitics, and others on international geopolitical things. Another one is on theology, and we share books, ideas, even challenge each other. Sometimes it could be a little challenging the way we push back on each other, but that's how we learn. Number three, always be a learner by asking questions. Whenever I'm with a person who has expertise in a particular subject or field, I drive them crazy. I ask them so many questions till I get a handle on it so I could learn something new. So always be around people who have expertise in certain areas. Okay, number four, scroll down, please. Uh, Number four, consistently have young people around you who are adept at the latest technology, cultural buzzwords. Ask them what kind of music they listen to, why, what it is and why they listen to it. Find out what's popular in the next generation in regards to music, literature, games, etc. Number five, while you're doing this concurrently, you always want to understand how to apply the scriptures to what you see in contemporary culture. You don't interpret the scripture through culture, you interpret the culture through scripture. If you have it reversed, you will become a liberal, progressive person who looks at scripture as just another nice literature, like, in psychology or anthropology or something. So you want to interpret life through the scriptures. Uh, Number six, you always want to hear what the Spirit is saying through the church, which is why we have these weekly collectives. This is one way. That's why we get together twice a year. We have a retreat, powerful retreat coming up September 22nd to the 25th in Panama City, Florida. We have this face-to-face gathering April 9th. These are incredible ways we hear what the Spirit is doing. Number seven, I'm sorry, yeah, number seven, make sure you're not interpreting the word through A, an old religious wineskin, B, an individualistic wineskin, a nationalistic wineskin or lens, or through your own opinions, hurts, and limitations. When you put the scriptures in the box of your own limitations, paradigms, national proclivities, ethnicity, or hurts, you can't really interpret the Bible correctly, and you will limit the ability to properly apply it to your world, to reality, and to culture. Uh, and then we want to understand concepts of futurism. Number eight, scenario planning is a strategic method to envision and prepare for multiple potential futures. The military is constantly involved daily in scenario planning with futurists, experts in technology, with ghosts or what we would call spies, and constantly gathering intel, trying to figure out contingency plans, hypotheticals based on their goals of advancing uh, the U.S. or whatever their interests are in the world. And so we, as church leaders, have to have scenario planning. We have to prepare for what's going on with our elders, with our church families, with our movements. Look at what's happening in the next 5 years so that we're not just responding, so that we're raising up gatekeepers who could help shape AI and shape technology, so that we're not just passively becoming uh, pawns, being shaped by those who have no understanding of Christ. And again, we want to understand what are the mega trends coming. As I already noted, they have broad impact. They're large, transformative global forces that impact economies, societies, cultures, and personal lives over long periods. They're irreversible. And one of the major mega trends that is coming, that's looming, uh, very soon. We don't know how long it'll take because things are changing rapidly, is what's called singularity. The concept of singularity, particularly in the context of technology and artificial intelligence, refers to a hypothetical future point in which technological growth becomes uncontrollable and irreversible, resulting in unforeseeable changes to human civilization. That is to say, AI becomes more intelligent than humans and start acting autonomously. And as I was listening to a video this morning, we try to put what's called baby gates up to stop AI from going too far or from putting themselves before humanity. Uh, we program AI to protect humanity, and that's a guardrail. But as the AI becomes super intelligent, they'll look at these gates as baby gates, and they could just step over and creatively fool us into either taking these guardrails down or just ignoring them and rewriting what the guardrails are. And that's what scientists and philosophers are debating. The outcome of singularity can be the demise of human civilization if we don't get a handle on it, raise up gatekeepers, because the AI could work to destroy a certain percentage of the population or the whole population, so that they would just have super intelligent computer systems running things. It sounds like science fiction, but philosophers and advanced people in AI uh, are really concerned about this possibility. And so in the next 5 to 15 years, we're going to see the possibility of autonomous agents rising up in artificial intelligence. We're going to see some geopolitical fragmentation and technological sovereignty. Nations are increasingly focused on technological self-sufficiency to reduce dependence on foreign entities. So we're going to see more and more nations like China producing AI in such a way so that they won't depend on the US for trade or other countries, and they'll be able to do what they want, basically. There'll be advances in robotics and automation. So the integration of AI with robotics is leading to sophisticated and autonomous systems. There'll be humanoid robots, collaborative robots, and mobile manipulation enhancing efficiency across industries. So we're going to have robots replacing a lot of people in the workforce, and unfortunately, even some crazy people falling in love with humanoids and wanting to marry them and have sexual relations with them as their synthetic skin becomes more and more realistic, and they have AI consciousness and they can mimic emotions. We're going to see a battle for what is human in the next 5 to 10 years, and a battle for what is a true family. We have to be ready. Can't put your head in the sand, just say this to the devil and just pray it away. It doesn't work that way. Okay. There's also some crazy stuff going on with climate technologies, quantum computer breakthroughs. I mentioned one. 6G is coming up with hyperconnectivity. If you think 5G is fast, where do you see 6G? And other kind of things which I'm not going to get into. So at this time, I'm going to ask Elijah Lowe to share. He's going to share about 20 minutes, and then we're going to open it up for Q&A for those who could stay with us from about 11 to 11:20 or so. So Elijah, take it away. You got about 20 minutes.
Thanks, Bishop. It's good to see everyone again. We live in exciting times. There's a few moments in history of human civilization where you can say that you live through a transition of civilization that is so large that it overshadows all other transitions in human history. And we're living in one of those times. Uh, so, so super exciting. At the same time, extremely scary. I do get that. So let me share with you, and then we can go into some Q&A. Okay. So we're talking about mega trends. And right now, I'm just trying to project the mega trends for the next 5 years, 25 to 30. And the way I'm gonna just before I start, for those who need to reach me, I'm gonna this is my X account. So if you want to reach me via X, formerly known as Twitter, this is the QR code. Another way you could reach me is through LinkedIn. This is my LinkedIn URL, as well as my LinkedIn QR code for those who wants to reach me. Okay, so the way I'm going to go about helping you guys frame mega trends is to look at it from two levels, primary drivers as well as secondary drivers. Okay, I think that the primary drivers, the three primary drivers, AI, robotics, and blockchain. Now, if you've heard me speak in the past, I did not really mention blockchain because for the longest time, the US have, the previous administration have kind of put the brakes on it. And US being such a large economy, if the US put the brakes on it, it basically puts a global brakes on a particular trend or direction that the world could potentially move in. However, the current administration is fully supportive of blockchain. And so because of that, you're going to see blockchain as one of the mega trends that is going to impact and change a lot of things in our society. So these are the three what I call primary drivers. The way I want you to think about primary drivers and the impact on society is that primary drivers impact secondary drivers. Okay, secondary drivers then impact the change in society. Okay, so this is a good way for you to frame, especially all the news you're reading and all the different things that are happening. Otherwise, you could get lost in an information overload without a framework to categorize and to think through what's happening in the world. Okay, so like for example, the primary driver is AI. Okay, the secondary driver and I'm going to go through there are multiple secondary drivers. One of the secondary drivers of AI is going to be space exploration. How does the primary driver impact the secondary driver? Well, space exploration was going really slowly before we had AI. Because of AI and our ability to innovate extremely fast, now we're able to catch rockets in midair with a pair of chopsticks. Okay? That's not possible without AI. But because we're able to do that, what happens is that it reduces the cost of space exploration by about 90% in a very short period of time. And that makes it financially feasible now to actually transport a lot of things into space. Okay, and the impact is that it's going to create a whole new space-related industry. Okay, that's it. That's your impact. The other impact that you're going to see is that for the first time in human civilization, it becomes really practical and realistic to have multi-planetary human civilization. That means, societies that don't exist just on Earth. Okay, so in terms of when you think through drivers, primary, secondary, and impact, I want you to think from a ministry perspective. You got to ask yourself questions like, how does that impact the leaders in my church, the secular leaders, the business leaders, the government leaders in my church, firstly. Secondly, how does it impact parents in the way they raise their children? You know, uh, and then thirdly, how does it impact the ministry leaders that I'm leading? What do I tell them? How do I direct them? So, like for example, for ministry, I mean, you got to ask yourself, if we go multiplanetary and we have children in our church, and the parents come to you and they ask you, hey, my kid want to be part of the first humans to colonize Mars, but it's a one-way trip. There is no way back to Earth. What's your position as a pastor? Okay. So, or ministry leader. So, these are some things for you all to think about. Okay. This has been, I talked about this, I've been talking about this for the last 1, 2 years. I think all economic indicators has confirmed that this is basically what's happening. So I'm 100% convinced that this is the economic impact from a macro perspective in terms of AI basically decoupling the correlation of labor with the production of goods and services. Okay. So let's talk about the first primary driver, AI. Okay. AI is going to impact these secondary drivers. Okay. So remember how I told you all to kind of frame things. So what are some of the secondary drivers that's actually going to impact and change our life and society? Okay. You are going to have improved energy sources, and energy storage that's going to drive a lot of things that we know today. You got space exploration, you got biotechnology and genomics. You got quantum computing, okay? You got neuroscience and BCI. What is BCI? BCI is brain computer interface, where we can go from thought into the computer without having to type, talk, or direct the computer in any other way other than just our thoughts. Okay. Uh, Education and learning, enhance humans is going to be a big thing. Clearly humans that have, brain-computer interface are going to be able to receive and control computers a lot faster than humans without. Okay. IoT infrastructure, immersive technology, VR and virtual reality and augmented reality, um, digital health and preventive care. So these are the secondary drivers that are going to drive the impact. Okay, so let's talk about some of the things that's confirming the direction. The first thing is Stargate, a $500 billion, the US announced a $500 billion project. Okay, it's the largest AI project in the world, mainly targeted at large language model. Okay, basically they're trying to take the underlying idea behind that is that the reality is that no one has achieved AGI yet. Okay, um, what we have with ChatGPT, Grok, DeepSeek, the China DeepSeek, all that are basically large language models or what we call transformer models. Okay. And essentially what they are think about them as like calculators. Okay. Right now we have calculators that if you put in 1 + 2, you press the equal sign, you get 3. Okay. So think of large language model as calculators instead of numbers, they are for words. So if I were to put in once upon a and I press the equal sign, what should I be expecting that word calculator to give me back? If I say once upon a, it should give me back time. Okay. So it's predicting the next word, kind of. But think about it as a very sophisticated calculator whereby you can put in questions, you can put in a lot of stuff, and the answer you get back sounds almost human, okay, and sounds almost intelligent. But essentially, what it is just a calculator, okay? It's not there having a consciousness, it's not there sitting contemplating about life, scheming against the humans or anything like that, okay? Essentially, it's a calculator. But why Stargate is important? Because OpenAI believe that if they scale that calculator enough, one day it will wake up and have consciousness, or one day it will wake up, okay, and be more human in terms of our ability to think on our own, okay. That is a very, very huge leap in terms of prediction or projection, because no one has been able to invent consciousness up to now. Okay. So for them to think that if they scale up a calculator, with enough power, that eventually it will be able to do that, I'm not 100% convinced that they're going to achieve AGI. But the US did announce. Why that's interesting is because up to this point, the largest project announced in the world was by the French, the Claude Anthropic, which was a $9 billion project. So we are basically, going from like a $9-10 billion type projects to a $500 billion leap. Now, what's that going to do? Also, it's going to cost the Chinese to go absolutely crazy and try uh, to keep up with us, which is what we are seeing. So that's why you have the DeepSeek. Okay. Now the DeepSeek, did the Chinese overtake us in terms of AI? No. Okay. Is it all it's cracked up to be? Not quite. Okay. This is my take on DeepSeek. I think first of all, the Chinese were absolutely lying on how they built it and the technology that they used to build it. I believe that they used a lot of technology they were not allowed to have. They bought it on the black market, okay, and they used that to build it. So in other words, they kind of did everything that OpenAI did. Okay, so it's more of a catch up rather than a leapfrog over the US. Okay. I think what it was also was a very much a financial play for them, okay? Because they know that if they were to do that, it would cause our market to crash. And they took a lot of, I believe they took a lot of short positions in our market, okay? And my estimate was that they made at least $6 billion, okay, by that move, which they would then use to build their AI further. So the thing to keep in mind is actually the ones that get less attention. It's all the speed in which we are discovering new material to do things. Okay, this is going to cause massive innovation across multiple sectors and industry really, really quickly. So what used to take 10, 15, 20 years to develop, we could probably do it in months now. Okay, so this is going to radically shift, product services and things in the real world. Robotics. Okay. Uh, Robotics uh, is another primary driver. These are the secondary drivers for it. You're gonna have autonomous systems, industrial automation, healthcare. So the way to think about robotics is this way, okay? AI is going to replace a lot of white collar jobs. Okay, that's without a doubt. Okay, it's a given already at this point. Okay, so any form of job that have to do with people who sit on a desk using their brains, those are all replaceable by AI. Just a question of how fast. Okay. Whereas when it comes to robotic, this replaces all the blue collar jobs. Okay. Anyone who's getting an income from trade skills, it's a good chance that they're gonna be replaced by robots. It's just a question of when. Okay. So plumbing, electrician, construction workers, stuff like that. Uh, and this comes in not service robots, exploration robots. The other thing is military applications. The big thing about military application is that it totally changes world power. Okay. In the sense that if from all the latest research that we've seen so far, uh, the moment you put AI into any kind of vehicle, whether it's an F-16, a tank, or any military equipment, no human with the exact same equipment would be able to beat an AI. So essentially, what happens is that when you go to war, okay, if you have AI be fully autonomous against your enemy has zero chance if they are human-led or human-controlled. Okay, it basically is like going with guns against an enemy who's using sticks and stones. Probably the gap is even bigger than that. Okay, basically zero chance. So the only countries that can fight against another country with AI is countries with equivalent AI abilities. And when we talk about AI, we're talking about fully autonomous. Okay, it's not AI that is like waiting for a human to decide. It has to be fully autonomous for it to have the kind of superiority. Okay. And China for sure, okay, like uh going full on into that, that's for sure. So robotics, for those of you, this is the most viable robotics right now in the sense that I think this is like, pretty close to coming to the market right now. This is made by Tesla. As you know, Tesla made, self-driving cars. And, by their track record, with SpaceX able to catch a vertically landing shot rocket, to all assumptions and prediction, we can pretty much say that we are very, very close to seeing this, you know, uh, being a reality in our society fairly soon. And the moment this comes on, it will replace a lot of blue collar jobs. Because for $25,000 for one of these, you don't have to pay any more salary costs or labor costs, for whatever job you're replacing. It's a one-time fee, and they work for you 24/7. So, uh, so what that means also from an economic perspective is that it's going to drive down prices. I know we're all facing inflation at this point, but the moment you can eliminate labor costs in a lot of production, whether it's white collar labor costs or blue collar labor costs, your cost of goods in terms of what you produce will go dramatically down really, really fast. Okay, so it's not even a question of like offshoring or anything like that anymore. It's just a question of which industry, which country can implement robotics the fastest will be able to drive down the cost of goods, food, productions, services for their country the fastest. Okay. Third one is blockchain. Okay. These are the secondary drivers. You're gonna have what we call DeFi, decentralized finance, uh, supply chains transparency, digital identity, tokenized economy, smart contracts. Sooner or later, it's going to go into governance and voting systems. And then it's going to basically cause governments to question the role of central banks. Okay. Eventually, it's going to come down to that. How that's going to impact our life, for a large part, it's going to be actually a positive thing. It's going to have the ability to eliminate a lot of governmental level corruption, or at least bring enough transparency to the governmental level corruption that people can begin to decide, what kind of government they want. And it's also going to decouple countries' dependency on their central bank. Whether that's a good thing or bad thing on the country depends on your government, I guess. How much control you want to have over your economy and your citizens. Um, so what are some key takeaways? These are the extremes in scale, the extreme far into the future. We're talking about a lot of replacement of white collar jobs, a lot of replacement of blue collar jobs, and a, a very significant shift in the way finance and investments transact on a global level. And that's going to affect a lot of economies really quickly. These are irreversible trends, okay? The reduction of labor costs in all goods and services. Luxury brand prices would probably increase. So you're going to have this gap, where of price gap. You're going to see a huge speed on innovation in all goods and services. So, how do we navigate the future? I think churches, ministries need to really start, thinking about these things. The people in business that we lead, it's really a question of if we don't equip them, it will shift. It will dramatically shift who will decide on what our future will look like in 5 years' time. Okay. If our business leaders are equipped in AI and they are the first ones to implement AI in their industry, then they get to lead their industry. If they don't, then they may not even be at the table in their industry. For parents, I think it's going to be really, really tough because it's really a question of, are you equipping your kids with the right skill? Because everything that you know about the job market and about what humans do and add value to society could dramatically be different in 5 to 10 years. So you put the age of your kids now, and then you project 5 to 10 years, and you say, what if 90% or 80% of jobs that exist today do not exist anymore? What does that look like? Now, is it going to happen in 5 to 10 years? It's really, really hard to say right now. And if anyone that can confidently project it, I've not known of anyone yet. So, for ministry leaders, this is an opportunity for us to shepherd our society into the future. Or the alternative would be, if we do not know how to lead through these mega trends, our ministry may not be relevant to the society that exists as these mega trends unfold. So back to you, Bishop. I think I did it in 20 minutes, Bishop.
Yeah, there is a God who loves us. Thank you. Um, well, I have a question for you. And by the way, we do regional gatherings where we unpack this over a Friday night and a half a day on Saturday. So you're just getting a snapshot. So if anyone's interested in having us come, um, and you could draw, at least 100 people made up of business leaders, pastors, and young people that are called into the field of technology so we can help shape their thinking, their worldview. Just get in touch with me or Elijah. We'd be open to it. We could have an application sent to you. But anyway, this is not just for everybody in the congregation, so it would be a waste of our time to do it just for a church unless they have that kind of uh, congregation with a lot of business leaders, technology people, and they could gather pastors in the area. All right. So this is great. I did have a few questions. One is, I love the movie The Matrix, Elijah. So do you think with computer technology and computer chips going in our brain, someone could put a Spanish language chip in my brain and I could speak fluent Spanish? Is that possible? Or like Keanu Reeves, he picked certain martial arts. He was proficient in martial arts. He put something in his brain. Of course, that was computer fighting and virtual fighting. But can computer chips actually help us speak a language in the future? What do you think?
Right now, I see no the whole research and advancement in that is in a very, very early stage. And so right now it's only one direction that I've seen the progress is being made in terms of we can control the computer, but the computer cannot actually put any information in our head, if that makes sense. So far,
Okay,
it's
so
only,
maybe in 50 years, 40 years, that
yeah.
could be, yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot more that needs to, a lot more technological breakthrough that need to happen on a very fundamental level for that to happen. But so far, all the progress is being made is just one way. It's just from our brain to the computer.
Would a computer chip make me more sensitive to my wife?
Highly unlikely. That's not gonna happen in all of eternity, I think. I think even in heaven, they're struggling to try to figure that one out.
All right, all right. Well, the floor is open. We have about 15 minutes or so, 10, 12 minutes, whatever. Any questions? Elijah, great job as usual.
Yeah.
Great job. Again, this could be unpacked for hours, and we're just giving you a snapshot every few weeks. Dr. Marilyn Weeks has her hand up.
Yes, and Elijah, I agree. I'm just always so inspired when you bring presentations. One thing that came to me, I think in the past week or two, I saw something that pertained to our phones, like say, for example, the iPhone in particular. And it had to do with, they said, you might be noticing that when you go on the computer already, it can tell some things with respect to your needs, your wants, your desires, and begin to frame some things that way. Kind of moving, into this, I assume, into this realm of more the autonomous, because it's like hooking with these different versions. It's hooking up to ourselves, to our bodies. I know I just hooked up to a health app also, and so almost everything is there. Okay, so I was wondering what your thoughts were with respect to, quite frankly, the intrusiveness of the iPhone in particular, and where it's at. Is it further along than we would believe? I know at the time of COVID, they put in an app to literally be able to track or know if you're in the company of folk that have COVID. And so in order to do those things, to me, this is just like the next launch. And to me, that was just a pretense to get to here. So I was wondering what your thoughts were with respect to what's going on with Apple and how they're, to me, sneakily doing things by way of the iPhone.
Okay, so basically, you are concerned on what we call predictive analytics. Okay, now it's just not Apple. Okay, the reality of the world that we live in right now, everyone's doing predictive analytics. Okay, and this is not a new technology. This has been out. I mean, I did predictive analytics back in the 90s. Okay, with AC Nielsen. Okay, so this is not new. What's new is that the public is only now beginning to find out about it. Okay, that's the only thing that has changed. Okay, Target had always had the ability to even predict who became pregnant just based on their Facebook likes. Okay, uh, and usually they can predict it even before the person themselves know that they are pregnant. Okay, so and they've been using it for marketing. So I think that this is not just about Apple. This is a much larger conversation. And I think we are so far down the development and the maturity of that technology that the genie is out of the bag for so long. It's only now that the public's finding out about it, and there's no way any marketing company is going to reverse that now.
Okay.
Okay.
Kyle Searcy has his hand up.
Yes. Great presentation, Elijah. Good to see you again. Bless you,
Mhm.
my friend. Curious as to what AI predicts about where it's going to be 30 years from now. I know you have probably asked it. You have probably put some projections in and asked it what it sees. Can you give us its prediction of some time frame that I'm sure you've explored and what it told you about what would happen at a certain period of time in the future?
Okay, so actually, what I'd rather do in terms of answering your question is to help ministry leaders approach this with maturity, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Okay. And this is what I mean by approaching it with maturity. Okay. If you were to ask Grok, ChatGPT, and all this, okay, there is a risk that you could freak out really badly.
Oh, I see.
Okay. And the reason for that, and I'll say this, now there are Christian leaders that are beginning to do this, and they are freaking out. Okay. And I started doing this 2 months after ChatGPT was launched. In fact, when I did this, what I did was that there were a group of us that was able to what we call jailbreak ChatGPT. That means remove all the guardrails from ChatGPT so that ChatGPT can give you its raw answer without a filter. Okay, and when I was interrogating it about these kind of issues, the answers it gave me really freaked the living daylights out of me. Okay. But then I've got a good 1 year to think long and hard about it. Okay. And understanding the underlying technology of transformer models and how it derived those answers, I got the question, is ChatGPT and all these large language models just synthesizing all our science fiction literature and just feeding it back to us?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think there's a lot of that going on as well. That is just synthesizing all our greatest fear that has been expressed in science fiction and just feeding it back to us. And that's freaking a lot of people out. Okay, so my suggestion is to definitely have a lot more discernment, pray about it and don't always react to your initial knee-jerk reaction.
That's good. Yeah, one other
All
quick
right.
question. Because ChatGPT is so quick and so knowledgeable, I've often wondered whether or not there are a number of believers that are forsaking time they would have spent with God, questions they would have asked God. I've been just really thinking about that a lot. There are times when maybe I want to make a decision of something and I used to fellowship with the Holy Spirit and ask him. So I wonder how much of God's time ChatGPT is getting. Have you ever wrestled with that or dealt with people just in terms of their spiritual formation of those kind of things?
I think this should be on top of the list for a lot of ministry and churches, the same way when you have the invention of television and people shifted their attention to that. Social media, people shifted their attention and time to that. I think this is just going to be one of those attention grabbers
Yeah.
that, as ministry leaders, you need to be able to help lead your flock, to navigate those things. Yeah.
Yeah, so one positive thing that might happen uh, is, in my opinion, and weigh in on this, Elijah, um, it will force the church to become more spiritual. That is to say, focus more on prayer because they're going to be outsmarted just using their mind, just using rationalizations and strategies. And the one thing, even AGI, which by the way stands for general intelligence, a lot more than what we have now with the narrow language model, people are going to be freaked out and they're going to say, wait a minute, there's only one super intelligent being who can outsmart AI, and that's God. That's the Holy Spirit, the triune Godhead. And I believe that as churches pray, and as we pray, uh, not only will the Spirit of God be able to override certain things, but He'll give us wisdom to act in ways and creative ways that will uh, culturally counteract some of the things that are going on. So, would you agree there's a potential, at least for a remnant, a potential amount of people that are going to understand the power of prayer and dependence on the Holy Spirit as never before? Is that possible?
I think that's highly possible. I think it might even lead to a new spiritual awakening, because for the first time, segments of society that do not believe in a more intelligent being, all of a sudden is confronted with the fact that, a word calculator known as ChatGPT, can actually produce, more intelligent answers than a lot of humans, then it opens up the idea that maybe there is, a higher being out there as well.
All right. Well, we have time for three more questions. Make the questions brief, because we're supposed to wrap it up in about, well, we'll give it to 11:20. So Ed Herculak, Lou Perez, and Ora Tanner. So in that order, Ed, you had your hand up first. Go ahead. Thank you, Ed. I think you're on mute. Your wife muted you again.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Elijah, for a great presentation. Currently, right now, worldwide, is the U.S. government administration on track to move some of these AI applications forward in regards to what you were talking about, mega trends?
Yeah, I would say the current administration, it's basically, putting a ton of emphasis and funding to be the world leader in these three areas. Okay. And to all intents and purposes, the US is going to accelerate these mega trends at the maximum possible speed it can go.
Wow. Okay. Lou Perez.
Two things. I can only imagine that with the AI revolution, that there'll be a religion of AI people worshiping Deus Ex Machina someday, saying there's the super intelligence, because a lot of science fiction stories tend to be prophetic in this area. The other thing is a question for Elijah. Do you think that with Moore's law, which was started in the 60s, where technology doubles every 24 months and every 24 months you put so much transistors on a wafer and now they're up to millions and 2 nanometers. Do you think that Moore's law is going to have to be reimagined in a new paradigm because of AI?
Two answers to two questions. The first one, that's the goal of the founders of Google, is to actually create a new god, what they call an AI god. Okay, and that's the goal of Google, if you did not already know that. There are people who do not agree with that, people like Elon Musk and XAI, who's actually trying to fight that direction and philosophy. Because if you extend that too far into the future, not only is their goal going to create a new god, their goal is to basically replace humans with artificial intelligence as the next evolution in humanity. Okay. So those there are camps, the different camps of people who are moving this forward with the resources to do it. And yeah, so on one side you have Google, that is their goal. And the other side you have Elon Musk, who's trying to fight that direction. That's the first one. And to your second question, could you repeat your second question again?
Yes, will Moore's law, where
Oh yeah,
technology
Moore's laws. So
implements.
yeah, I think we're gonna break the Moore's laws because it's going so fast right now. That's just way too slow in terms of its prediction. Yeah.
Okay. Aura Tana had her hand up.
Yes, hello. Thank you very much for your talk. I had a question about just when you're traveling around, you and Bishop Matera talking about AI. In your presentation, you talk about, the future, and that's more like a, techno-utopian that, all the good it can do. And I know there's techno skeptics that are, hey, it's gonna kill us all. I'm more a techno realist. So there's a lot of social impacts for this technology. For instance, the data centers that are being built to kind of support all of this. 9 out of 10 of those, all the data centers being built, which we have, I think, like 3,500, are in poor communities and Black communities. The people that are training these AI systems are underage teenagers around the world. There's the environmental impacts, causing water shortages and things like that. So how do people say this is just the cost of progress. So can you talk about if the cost of progress is justified when communities are being destroyed, people's lives are being destroyed? And of course, God cares about justice
Yeah.
and those people. So if you can talk about that.
Yeah, I sympathize with that. That is really a tough one. Okay. So the best way to conceptualize this is the Industrial Revolution. Okay. In the early days of the Industrial Revolution, we had a lot of really bad stuff happening too, right? Children were working in factories and stuff like that, and then, things got better, right? So I think we're kind of going through the same process. And the reason why we cannot slow it down is because the world is essentially in a global AI race right now. Okay. And China is basically fighting tooth and nail with the US to have AI superiority. The problem is that if China achieves it before the US, okay, essentially we will live in a world where China becomes the only dominant superpower of the world. Do we really want to live in a world like that? Okay. If we don't, then, we are going to have to increase the speed of our AI innovation. And you're right, the thing that's holding it back right now is basically our energy supply. Okay. So we as a country in the US, we have only half the electrical capacity of what we really need for AI innovation. So we need to double our electrical capacity as fast as possible. Okay, hence the issues that you talk about, The question is that how fast can we double our electrical capacity, In terms of teenagers being used to train AI, all that, first of all, they are not being used to train AI, they're being used for labeling of data sets. Okay. I think that issue could potentially, go away because the labeling of data sets right now is too slow, no matter how large an army of teenagers that you build to label your data sets. So ultimately, the direction all these industries have to go is that they have to use AI to label, okay? Again, to replace what's being done by people right now. And the first few companies that do it will have a huge advantage over those who don't. But in the interim, I get what you're saying, you know. Meta's doing it, Google's doing it, everyone's doing that, you know. Yeah, that's true. Okay.
Well, unfortunately, these things happen. And that's why we need Christians as the gatekeepers to mitigate against some of the injustice that takes place while supposed progress is progressing. Let me ask you a question. You alluded to crypto and blockchain, but you didn't say whether or not maybe that's not the purpose of today. So here's my question. Do you think it's safer to invest in crypto in terms of the reliable ones that we know about, like Ethereum, Bitcoin, and uh, some others? I'm not an expert in this area, but would investors in crypto welcome the Trump administration's focus on crypto, or is that actually bad for crypto investors? Well, what do you think?
So when it comes to crypto, let's be clear, it's a category of assets and not a single asset.
Right.
Okay. So, and within that category, you have a range of risk and return. Okay. So you get some that are extremely risky, like extremely risky. And then there's some that are extremely safe. Okay. Like even safer than putting in your bank. Okay. So, so it's again, it comes down to, so the question of what is risk? Okay. And so this is where, you need to understand that a lot of what they teach you in textbook, in finance, and in school could potentially not be right. Okay. For example, risk. Risk itself, that is not tied into an asset. A risk is tied into a trade. But everything they teach you in schools that is tied into an asset, that's not true at all. Okay. Risk is tied into a trade. This is what I mean. The risk is only there when you are exchanging one asset for another. Okay. So, for example, the US dollar in itself inherently does not have any risk if you and I are trading in just US dollars. Okay. But the moment we trade the US dollar with yen, okay, or pesos, then all of a sudden the US dollar has risk. Okay. The same way, when it comes to crypto and it's the same way. So if you hold a stable coin like a USDC or USDT, that crypto has zero risk. Okay, because when you exchange it, you're getting, yeah, let me condition that. It's zero risk if you are exchanging it for a US dollar. Okay, not 100% zero, but like, maybe 0.001% risk, depending on how they back that stable coin, right? So in that sense, there is categories of crypto that is less risky than, say, putting your US dollar, depending again on where you keep your US dollar, right? If you keep it at home, if your house burned down and your US dollar burned, there's a risk to that. If you put it in a bank and depending if that amount that you put in a bank is more than their insurance by the FDIC, then there's risk to that, if you so anywhere you keep your US dollar, there's risk. So keeping your US dollar on a crypto blockchain is actually less risky than some of the other places you could keep your US dollar. Okay. So you got to think in terms of risk like that when it comes to crypto. Now it comes to opportunity. Yes, it's all over the place when it comes to crypto. Okay, so if your traditional financial asset risk is like that, your lowest risk and your highest risk, and your return is like this and like this, crypto basically expands that range. Okay. So it has the same range as traditional and it has more range than the traditional. So you have less risky stuff than traditional, but you also have more risky stuff than traditional. Okay. So that's the way to conceptualize crypto. And of course, I know everyone here wants to probably make some money, right? So I would say do your due diligence. I need to put all the caveat out there. I'm not a a financial advisor, and this is my personal opinion. It has nothing to do with giving you guys any financial advice. Okay. However, I would say this, there's a lot of interest in Bitcoin. Okay. And it's a very early days of Bitcoin where we have a few ETFs right now. And the amount of institutional investors that have it as part of their portfolio is still extremely low. Okay. So if the US were to actually create a US reserve of crypto, for sure, Bitcoin is going to be part of that portfolio. I guarantee you that. Okay. And when the US government does that, it would put a lot of pressure on all the institutional investors to also have that as part of their portfolios. Okay. And when that happens, it will create a demand on Bitcoin. Okay. And the supply we know is limited. So there will be fluctuations in the Bitcoin, but I think over the medium to long term, of all the Bitcoins of all the crypto out there, Bitcoin is the one that, I think for sure is going to go up.
All right, last question. Thank you for that. And then we're going to end it. David or Leila Tyree, one of you have your hand up. It might be Leila, but go ahead.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to ask really quickly because you were sharing the impact that AI would and the robotics would have on the job market, and even in relation to parenting. So I was wondering if, obviously, when this happens, how should we be positioning our children in relation to the job market? Kind of like, what are maybe some early ideas on ways that that we can position them in the event that some of these jobs get sort of wiped out or replaced? How do we sort of remain competitive in that particular way? And obviously, even in relation to raising leaders that can be gatekeepers, if you will. So what do you see as potential opportunities in the future?
So the way I would say is that I've got 2 kids myself, so I totally get it. Okay, I've got a 13-year-old girl who wants to be a lawyer and an author, and I've got a 10-year-old boy who wants to be a doctor. Okay, and I look at my daughter and I go like, oh my gosh, these are the first 2 jobs that's going to be eliminated. A writer and a lawyer? Are you kidding me? So then I look at my son, a doctor. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I look at all the advances that's happening in the medical field, and it's like you got a lot to catch up on. By the time you get into medical school, it's going to be so radically different, right? So the first thing I would say is that as a parent, the first thing I'm going to do is to, help my kids work with AI, first of all. If your kids do not know how to collaborate with AI, that's an immediate disadvantage. Okay. Like for anything to learn, because my kids learn so much faster by using AI. My daughter used it to ask it to explain some very difficult math ideas and complex stuff, even that I struggle with, right? So definitely, get kids doing that. Secondly, begin to, have your kids be very adaptable. Okay. I think adapting, being able to change, not being able to, this is going to be a lot more the EQ side of things. Okay. A lot of the hardcore skills that we use to appreciate a society might go away. For example, the ability to do math. Okay. The mechanics of math might be less important than the ability to conceptualize math, because the actual calculations and all those things can be done by the AI. Okay. Again, when you talk about computer programmers, now I've got a software company as well. The gap between the the actual programming skill between the weak programmers and the strong programmers have almost totally disappeared. So the only difference in terms of, being able to write code from a job perspective is the ability for that employee to conceptualize what's needed in the code. The actual writing of the code, none of my programmers actually write code anymore. The AI does that. They just guide the AI into conceptually how the code should function. Okay, so that's what I'm seeing. So, and this is still the early days, so I think when you're raising kids, the ability to conceptualize, the ability to think of new ideas, the ability to adapt, are all going to be more important than just, the ability to memorize and pass an exam. Okay. So, and I think we got to be further dialogue among Christian leaders as to, whether I'm even right about this. I'm not sure if I'm right on that, but, I think there's definitely a lot of room for, and I'm sure Bishop has in mind a lot of roundtables to begin to have conversations around this.
So
Yeah,
Elijah, what's your best method to begin to dive into and learn AI the most? I'm sorry, Joe, I should have asked you if it was okay to ask that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, your best method for a deep dive into AI, what would you suggest?
Uh,
Other than your roundtables.
Thank you for asking me to promote my book.
Yes, that's what I had in mind.
I do have a book called Navigating AI with Faith. That to me, it's just a good starting point for people to conceptualize what AI is and just, get a handle on that. But you got to see AI more of like from a real pragmatic standpoint, more like learning how to swim than trying to learn math. Okay. Or trying to learn history or something like that. Okay. It's a skill that you have got to use yourself and not something that you read and you get better at. Okay. So even simple things like learning to converse with the AI. You can have two people having the same conversation with the AI on the same problem and having absolutely different results. Okay. And this is something that you learn by doing, So if you're not already using ChatGPT and Grok, that would be the start, Start using it on a daily life, in your daily life to help you save time. If you're not using it and you're not saving time on the things that you used to do by about 50 to 80%, then that would be the starting place. Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you for that. We put the Amazon link of Elijah's book in there. What's the name of the book again? You have two books. So what are they?
Navigating AI with Faith. I think for what you guys are interested in, that would be the book to read, Navigating AI with Faith. I
Okay.
do have another book built for AI, but that's more like the historical understanding of how we got to where we are today.
Okay. Wow, this has been wonderful, wonderful.